What's up, guys? I'm Charlie Robinton with Emerald Water Anglers. Today we're going to be tying one of my favorite steelhead flies, the Hohbo Spey. This fly was developed by Charles St. Pierre, local steelhead fisherman and fly tyer from the Northwest. And it's one of my favorite flies because it's so versatile. It's one of those crossover patterns, kind of a medium-sized fly. It's got a lot of movement, a lot of action with that marabou, and it's got good contrast. So I've had success with it in a lot of different conditions, and I hope you do too. So let's get tying. Place your Waddington shank in the vise. Start at the top of the Waddington shank and just wind on back. Clip the end of your thread and let's work on the stinger. So here I'm sliding the Power Pro up through the back of this Waddington shank, and I'm leaving about an inch between my trailer hook and the Waddington shank, making sure that the point of my trailer hook or stinger hook is facing upward. Sometimes it helps to tuck that excess braid into the eye of the hook so that it lays along the shank nice and tense. That way it's not wobbling all over the place while you're trying to wrap. You take and you fold over your Power Pro so it's now on the bottom of that Waddington shank, and you wrap it back down again. That's going to secure it nice and tight. Sometimes I like to even take and add a couple drops of glue just to make sure. Hey, when it comes to hooking that big steelhead, I will err on the side of caution. We're going to add a little butt section of orange light bright dubbing. So the way I'm going to do this with the dubbing loop. If you've never done a dubbing loop before, it's really easy. Take your thread like so. Place your finger in the middle of it. I've got about 10 inches of thread here. Fold it down over the shank and just wrap up. And I'm wrapping up about 1/8 of an inch. Now I've got this loop of thread in my finger here. What I'm going to do is take my dubbing, little clumps, and just slide it up into that loop. So once you've got your dubbing in the loop, just like that, I'm going to take in my thumb and forefinger the bottom, slide my finger out of there, and I'm just going to spin this loop of thread, thereby spinning my dubbing into kind of a little brush. Once that's kind of tight, I'm just going to take it and wrap it up the hook towards my thread. And you can see, once I'm done, I got a nice big butt on my fly. Next thing we're going to do is tie in a guinea feather. Once again, this is your guinea right here. It's got these beautiful spots. I love this stuff. So I'm going to take a nice long one because it needs to be able to wind up the hook shank, Palmer style. Strip off this excess sort of webby feather at the bottom here. Let me show you here. So I've stripped off all the the barbs on the upward side. Now I'm ready to lay this guy on the shank. Tie it in by the tip. Once that's nice and secure, ready to make the next step, which is creating the dubbed body. One more thing I'm going to do before I add the dubbed body is create another dubbing loop out of thread. This one I'm just going to leave hanging, and that's going to be used as the rib later on, just to secure that guinea hackle so that the fly doesn't fall apart as fast. Alright, not going to use a dubbing loop for this stuff. I'm just going to use a standard dubbing method. While you're applying your dubbing, just make sure that you've got an even application. You're not creating any little dog legs in there or big clumps of dubbing. You want a nice even body. I'm going to wind my body up. Just wind an even body right up the hook shank. Really simple. It's ready to go. Next step, I'm going to palmer this guinea hackle. And you want to have pretty wide wraps on this stuff because it's a pretty short feather. If you try to wrap too close to each other, make the wraps too close to each other, you're going to find you come to the end of the feather pretty quick. And you can take your rib, like to spin it around, create kind of one little unified section out of it. You always go, when you're doing ribbing on any fly, you want to go opposite the direction that you wrap your feather. That way, while you're casting it, the fly is not going to fall apart as quickly. Next step, adding the marabou. I'm going to select a piece of marabou here, just one single barb. Alright. So you can see, got this nice webby piece of marabou. Feathers are about 3 inches long. I'm going to tie this guy in by the tip and palmer it. Now, most people aren't used to palmering marabou. It's a really effective technique to get a nice splayed look to your fly. And all you have to do is tie it in by the tip, just like you would with a normal hackle feather. You just pay a little extra attention while you're wrapping it so that you're not overlapping. Here I go. As I wrap, I'm just going to kind of use my fingers to fan back any excess material. Make sure it all lays down nicely. Make sure I'm not wrapping over anything. I'm just going to make 3 or 4 wraps up the hook shank towards the thread. Not too many. You don't want this fly to look thick. It's a really sparse pattern. Clip that guy short. Pull that excess marabou back. Wrap over it with the thread. My fly's almost ready to fish. But first, I'm going to add my favorite part, Lady Amherst. This stuff is really cool. It's got a lot of contrast. Really moves in the water when you put it in there. And I think it's really fishy stuff. So, take about 4 pieces of this Lady Amherst, 4 little barbs off of the stem. And just tie 2 in on top, 2 in on the bottom. Alright. Now the last step before this fly is complete is adding the flash. In most of the shop patterns, they use holographic flash. I'm using angel hair here. It's a little bit thinner. I think it moves a little better in the water, and it's real cool stuff. This color is called steelhead ice. It's just a nice sort of magenta purple color. Matches the fly really well. The one thing about angel hair is it's really thin. And it can fall out of your thread wraps really easily. The way you combat that when you tie it into the fly is to tie it forward first and then fold it back. And there you are, folks. Hohbo Spey, hot off the press. That guy's ready to catch a steelhead. Check it out. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed tying this fly with me. Once again, I'm Charlie Robinton with Emerald Water Anglers, and that was the Hohbo Spey. Till next time.